Okay, I just got on the phone with Ray Vallowe. Today is October 24th, 2018. This is part two in a series of discussions regarding the Korean War and the chosen campaign. All right, Ray, do you remember where we left off?
Well, not we haven't covered quite a bit of stuff. Where were we at?
Yeah, we did. We covered quite a bit. We were talking about things that led up to the chosen campaign.
Okay.
And so what I did was I went out on the computer and pulled up some of the maps that I've used in the past to do my research. And I'm going to show them on the camera as I'm speaking with you. Right? And just thought it'd be a nice little introduction. So the first map that I brought up comes from the West Point Atlas. And it shows pretty much the status of the Army's positions going into the Korean War coming into November. Approximately November 23rd, 24th, we have an armored group company that's moved up to the Vallowe. Comes about 10 clicks short. And I know one of the tankers, one of the tank heads, tread heads that was up there is named Sam Arredondo. He said the Chinese were coming across 4 wide at that location, and his lieutenant and captain turned him around and brought him back. The other map that I've got brought up is one of Mossman's. I think it's Mossman. Double check here. Yeah, the ebb and flow map on regarding X-Corps on the 26th of November.
Yeah.
And on this map, you can clearly see the area of operations. The line at Cap San, running to Heisingen due east, belonging to the Rock Marines. The area west of Cap San, running westward to the Pujan Reservoir. All that belonged to the 7th ID. And then you had this 25 to 30 mile, 35 mile swath of land that belonged to the Marines. And on that they had from just east of Udamne, or just west of Udamne, running due east to the Pujan Reservoir. Then, right, and if you go back to the first map, you can see where the 8th Army's area of operation starts at Chosen Reservoir there at Udamne, and it swings all the way over and has everything westward of that location, which means that according to Mossman and his map, the 26th of November, the 8th Army represents the east and west side of the Taebaek Mountains, which is that spinal cord of mountains that runs down through the center of Korea. So where we left off, and this is the point that I think your book does a very great job of bringing to light, is that these maps are a little bit off, to say the least. Right? The area of operations, according to this map, is based on the 26th, but we know that on the 25th, orders were already given for the 7th ID to come due south and come back up through Orori into Hagaru. Right?
Okay.
Correct me whenever I'm wrong. Okay? Because I think I'm pretty much on page here. Let me clear some of this out of here so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Tell you what, doing the research on this has been a real handful, to say the least. Well, I guess maybe I may have removed that map. I have to find it. Long story short, though, the purpose of your book is to identify these little small hidden undiscussed issues, correct?
Yeah. What I could find.
What you can find. And it's not that you're rewriting history, you're actually just bringing more history to light, and then you're asking a few questions. Or at least causing the reader to want to ask a few questions. That would be my mindset. So right now I'm showing the map when the 8th Army had gone all the way up to the Vallowe from the west side along the Tabak Mountains. The West Point Atlas map is not all that accurate. But when you come back and you look at the area of operations map, and you lay it out the way it shows according to Mossman, right? The Marines really represent the center of the map of Korea, in the northern part of Korea. So the issue becomes, they had such a small swath of land to contend with, right? And the Army had done their job for the most part, made it up to the Vallowe on both sides of the Marine Corps situations, area of operations. And things started changing around the 25th, right?
Yeah.
Right, because on the 25th we're looking at the Marine Corps coming out of Hagaru, right, and going up to Udamni, moving over to Mupyongni and on to Manopajin. Whereas the Army, who's now been pulled out of their area of operations, they've moved on to Hagaru, up to the east side of Chosin, and moving due north to the Vallowe. But that's not exactly what the final plan was it?
No. Well, see, that's what I was looking at. I found out something was, I always thought that was like a map 2. I thought I had earlier.
Yeah.
When I said we're not on there anymore.
Yeah.
That's a map 5 on the 26th.
Map 5 on the 26th?
Remember, I thought that was an earlier map. But anyway, this map 5, it does not show the 31st on there.
Well, I'm looking.
It shows the 5th Marines across from from Udon, from Hagaru.
Yeah.
But it doesn't show us where we would have been in that center zone.
Right. And
we're nowhere to be found on that map.
right.
And like I said, that's a big mystery. Where did we go?
Right, it just kind of disappeared. I mean, that's kind of the way the whole thing gets treated in the future anyway. They do very little talking about what you guys are doing, why you're doing it, how you got there. But they spend a whole lot of time talking about it, the Marine Corps and all that they were doing, right? But I think your book did a pretty good job of explaining out how O.P. Smith's lack of movement and allowing Litzenberg's lack of movement create that horseshoe. And I think ultimately you can make the argument made the failure chosen more pronounced. It seems as if Smith was trying to run his own little war, so he got a lot of concessions. So let's talk about these concessions. Let's talk about these concessions.
He learned that. I mean, he was griping and he was getting concessions for doing it.
Yeah. And his motivation was he just wanted everything centralized. That's the verbiage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these concessions. Let's go back into I don't know, as early as you want to go. Let's talk about his first concessions. What do you recall and what do you want to talk about?
Well, the first one was, like I told you the other night, that's that one where, at Incheon, before we got to Incheon, where he had that argument with Allman, about getting what was that, 1st Marine Brigade.
Yeah.
That was already in action under Walker.
Right.
Well, he went and when they to Incheon, he said, I want that 1st Brigade with us.
Right.
And Walker said, I can't do it. He said, I want this stand and die line, and I'm almost being pushed out of Korea.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't have that break in there. So then he went to Allman, and Allman, Smith was trying to say, I want that brigade. So then Allman was favoring Walker, because Walker was taking all the beating for the 3 months.
Right.
He had lost ground, he had lost men galore, and he didn't have the forces
Yeah.
And so Smith said, well, you either give me them or I'm going to cut off one of the beaches. You know, like Yellow Beach or Green Beach, whatever it was. He says, I won't have them invade that. So I said, that's when the Navy stepped in. The Navy said, I'll tell you what, he says, we'll take care of it. He says, in other words, you pull the Marines out, give them to Smith, and then we'll substitute on the 17th Regiment. He's going to take away the 17th Battalion from us. We'll take the 17th Battalion, and we'll put them in floating reserve. And if they're needed at Pusan, we'll rush them into Pusan. If they're needed at Incheon, we'll whip them around and let them off Incheon.
Okay.
But in other words, that was a concession, and it cost us.
Right.
It cost us the battalion, which we had all those rocks with us to start with.
Okay.
So that was like the first concession. And then that next one I knew was that one where I told you that 24 hours.
Yeah.
In order to cross the Han River.
Right. This is a question about whether or not Almond's going to commandeer Navy vehicles to get them across.
Yeah. He said, I need your Amtrak's to get the 7th Division across the Han River to help out with Sewell, taking Sewell. And he says, you can't use those. He said, they're the property of the United States, property of the Marines.
Okay.
And Alman told him then, that's one thing, that's the one where Alman turned him down. He says, they're the property of the United States government, and I intend to use them. And that's when the major stepped in, one of the majors from the Marines stepped in and says, well, line your men up in groups of 16 and I'll get them across the Han River.
Okay.
And then the next thing, like I told you, and I said, that was the shocking thing of all. Where on the 24th of September, when he told us, Smith, he says, I want you to take Sewell on the 25th. And Smith said, well, the enemy's got something to say about that. He said, yeah, but he said, the Marines are famous for going headlong in the battle. He said, there's other options. You can go to circle the city.
Okay.
And so he sees, well, the Marines do what they got to do. So he's telling them, I'm going to give you 24 hours to make progress. If you don't make any progress, I'm narrowing your area on the east side, and I'm turning it over to the 7th Division. And so he waited the full 24 hours, and then he called them together. He called Smith and Barr together. He said, I'm separating your units. He said, east of Sewell, he said, it belongs to the 32nd Regiment now.
Right.
In other words, he can do what he wants.
And that's where the Amtraks were employed.
South Mountain. They took South Mountain and they got at least then they officially cleared Sewell on the 27th.
Okay.
That's when MacArthur came over and gave the unit a big mistake. He gave the power back to Sigmund Reed.
Right. And there was still fighting going on in the outskirts of town.
Yeah, but they said that was like an important date. They said it was like kind of like when we got Hitler out of France, you know, out of Paris.
Yeah.
You know, when they moved him out, and it was still a significant day. You know, it was, but MacArthur wanted it known that the 25th it was cleared, and that was the 3rd month of the war.
Okay.
That was a significant date. But then Smith held to his thing, you know, and so he got the concession from the 7th Division.
Okay.
So then they go up to North Korea, and that's when we talked. I think where we cut off the other night was when we went into the Pusan Reservoir. He said, he said, that was their area. And he said, well, how come you're not over at the Pusan Reservoir? He said, we can't find a road leading around because it comes in on Barr's area. He said, why not give it over to them? So we got another concession. Alman gave us the Pusan Reservoir.
Okay.
That was another concession.
All right.
then the other thing, then the biggest thing was that he wasn't going to move for Chosen.
Well,
And that's why Allman had to work in all this stuff and change all these things around, because now he was given the east side of Chosen to the 7th Division. And then when the order come out, we found out we were going to take the mission that was assigned to the Marines in Pyongyang.
Right. Let me scroll back to that particular map. I got a few maps up here. So yeah, and McLean's orders clearly show that you were going to end up at Mupyongnee, and that's Operation Order 25, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me backtrack a little bit back to Incheon. How did the 32nd end up crossing the Han River in the first place if Seoul was going to be captured by the Marine Corps?
Well, see, originally, Faith was heading to join us down. See, that's how we got to take Wonsan. Not Wonsan, what was that one?
Suwon.
Suwon, that walled city. It had that wall around it.
Yeah, that's where Ray Cottrell went in. I got you.
The 32nd, he pulled Faith. Faith was heading for us.
Right.
And then on that 24th, when he pulled the Faith out, because he was with the 32nd and keep the 32nd together, that's when we took over the thing for the walled city there, for Suwon.
Well, the history.
Take that airstrip.
Right, and the airstrip in Suwon was eventually captured shortly after the 7th ID came ashore. The 2nd Battalion was heavily involved in that. I know that because Ray Cottrell was involved in that. In my book, from the Frozen Chosen to Churchill.
We used all those guys from the 31st.
Right.
Took that. Well, the 57 was arrowed out. They put our howitzers on the edge of the airstrip.
Okay.
And that's when I put that thing. I said, we're sitting there, and I said, there's planes coming in, and he cuts loose. He cuts loose with a 50 calibers, and he kind of chips up the runway a little bit.
Really?
Like Embry, Colonel Embry, he says, oh man, he says, I'm going to cut that guy a new one. He was going out, he was really going to rip this guy from head to toe, and he said, well, the guy steps out of the plane and he's a full bird.
Oh, hell.
One rank over Embry.
Right.
Oh, well, an honest mistake. He reached for one of the things in the cockpit, and he hit the button for the machine gun.
Oh, hell. Good thing he was coming to a runway nobody was on.
Yeah, nobody was hurt, but boy, Embry, he was really going to get it. Boy, if there would have been a captain, he really would have got it from Embry.
Okay, well, the history clearly shows that the 32nd went and took South Hill and basically the east side of Seoul. But where did you discover that at? What orders showed that was going to be the case, or that ended up being the case? How did you discover that?
What was this, for Seoul?
Yeah. And
well, that was from Appleman, from the north to the next on
south to the Yalu.
North to the Yalu.
Okay.
That was his book.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I got the quote from about the 24th about that delay.
Right. Now, the 57th Field Artillery, you spent a lot of time in the 7th ID, either close to the 31st or the 32nd. And when those forces are moved out of Walker's Way, basically, because now you had the 8th Army coming up from the south, right? And they didn't put you all back on the ship, they just drove you guys down to Busan, correct?
In other words, the Marines went out the way they came in. They got aboard ship.
Yeah, the Marines did. I'm talking about the 50. I'm talking about you yourself.
Pulled out really upset Walker. Because Walker said, I need that ammo coming in.
Right.
And I need the ammo because we don't know what's going to happen because we're at the 38th parallel line now.
Yeah.
We don't know if somebody's going to, like this. They didn't mention that much about the Chinese, but they weren't sure if they were going to come back in or not.
Are you making the
He was
argument?
really mad. He said he needed all of this. He had just moved his forces up. But the road he took from Tucson to come up to Sewell.
Yeah.
Now, all the Marines just had the load on ship. They had the load on ship. They told us, we got to get a truck to get marched together and go back the very same road, 320 miles, that the 8th Army had just moved up to Sewell.
Okay.
And then they were in battle for 3 months. We were the fresher troops.
Okay.
In other words, it would make sense to say, okay, bring them up. We'll keep everybody here at the border, and we'll let the 7th Division and the Marines relieve these guys who've been in battle for 3 months.
Okay.
But he didn't do that. Because, he was set on this amphibious landing up in North Korea. So he pulled the Marines out, and then he run us by truck, which we were attacked on the way. The guerrillas and things were in between. They run us back to Tucson. And then on the 19th of October, I boarded ship. And I had my 20th birthday on board ship.
Okay.
And so we sat there on ship. And we were chatting, saying, well, I guess we're probably, the war's over, we're probably going back to Japan where we came from,
Yeah.
But they were shuffling the deck then. And then Almond said, well, they had to wait for the UN to act. In other words, the war was officially over on October the 3rd. Everything that was lost was taken back.
Okay.
Well, the UN said, and then MacArthur made that huge mistake by giving Sigmund Rhee back his forces. That was where the big mistake was. He said, go pursue the North Koreans all the way to the Yalu. Well, we couldn't go because the United Nations had not voted that we could go. So only on the 7th of October, did the UN say, all right, you can unite all of Korea.
Okay.
So that's what sent us after these guys. Well, anyway, the North Koreans, the South Koreans had made great strides. That's what it means. And while the Marines were supposed to land at Wonsan, when they got there, like I said, they had to wait. They were delayed almost about 9 days because the harbor was mined.
Right.
And they said, then the Navy comes along again, and the Navy says, they had one ship out there, they called it the Magpie. I didn't know till I'd read all that we were hiring the Japanese from World War II that had naval experience to man these ships.
Okay.
And they were manning this Magpie, and it was a mine detector, to relieve the mines.
Right.
Well, it hit one and blew up.
Right.
So then what the Navy comes along again, they say, well, we're several days late on landing at Wonsan. It says what we'll do is we'll get the planes to bomb their way through the landmines. So they just went along with their machine guns and then dropping bombs along the way, and they cleared like a large path there for the ships to get in.
Just by
that narrow path in there. That's how they clear out the mines.
on a strafing run, basically.
And then that's when they said the Marines got that embarrassment because when they got off the ship on an amphibious landing, Bob Hope was already holding the road show.
Right.
He was already holding the road. He said, "Oh, here comes the Marines."
All right. Well, let's talk about the landing. The Marines got held up at Wonsan. waiting to get in, so they're out there just kind of running circles while they're clearing the mines. What date do they pull out of Pusan?
Who out of Pusan?
When
Us or?
the Marines.
Well, they weren't at Pusan, you know.
Oh, that's right. They just came off the ship from Incheon, just came around, correct?
Well, they got on ship. They got on ship at Incheon,
Okay.
which meant they had to come all the way around Busan and come up on the east side.
And they were supposed to go in at
on the other side.
and they were supposed to go in at Wonsan, right? So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get is the timing down, because General Almond decides that he's going to go another like 100, 200 miles north and go in up here at Ewan, right?
Because of that delay. Because he already knew the advance that the South Koreans had made. They were already up there. They were already up there at Wonsan too. You know, that's why Bob Hope was secure on having his party up there.
So did the South Koreans have it cleared from Wonsan through Hamhung and Ewan? Because Ewan was a pretty easy landing, if I recall.
Oh yeah, that was we were kind of washed out. The beach was washed out because we had those little LSTs, those landing ship tanks.
Yeah.
You know, the big ship where the doors open sideways.
Yeah. On the
That's
front.
where our ships were and everything. Our howitzers were on there.
Okay.
And, yeah, that was a delayed landing. There was no problem there.
Okay.
But that's why we went right into, and then we were assigned that center zone for 7th Division. And then the Marines were left behind. They were left there at Wonsan, and then they had that thing. I got to get that book out of Marines and read that about that deal. See, Polar had a bad experience down there. He had run into a supply dump the North Koreans had, and they were figuring they still had their guerrilla groups going around there.
Yeah.
Got into a rough fight, part of his group, and they had to be evacuated by sea.
Okay.
They got in so deep down there, and then I think the guy that was in charge of the group, they said he was sent back to the States.
Well, I just noticed something, just a little off topic for a minute, but when you look at the 26th November map from Ebb and Flow, it shows forward positions evening of the 26th. It doesn't even have Ewan marked on the map. It just goes from Pukchon to Tanchon to Songjin. And of course, Ewan is in between Pukchon and Tanchon. So you're right, when you all came in, you were right in the center zone between, coming right up in between the rocks on your eastern side and the Marines on your western side.
Okay.
Alright, that makes, I'll follow that. One of the events that happened, there was a supply dump, and I assume it was North Koreans, that a couple of South Koreans were going to blow up. And it was a very large mass of it. When they blew it, these three guys were so close to it that it killed them. They didn't realize how big of a blast it was going to be. And it rattled glasses and windows and whatnot from miles away. He said you could hear it from miles away. These guys were just way too close for the blow. So anyway, just adding that to the equation. All right, so now that we're into everybody's in their area of operations, okay? The original plan of Operation Order 6 would show that the Marines would go from Hagaru to Udamni to Mupyong to Kangji to Manopajin, correct?
Yeah.
And Operation Order 7 comes into play on the 25th, right? November 25th, 26th? And this is draft 1 now.
Yeah.
So this is draft 1. And under that, verified by the secret order, Operation Order 25, that stayed buried for 20, 30 some odd years, we now find that the Army's going to take Mopyeong-ni. So basically, that left the Marines with nothing to do once you got to Udam-ni. That's as far north as they were ever going to go. Right?
Yeah.
And the area of operation lines were withdrawn everywhere, right? The 8th Army was lowered down below Udam-ni. The 7th would move out and take over what was the 7th, the Marines' position on the east side of the reservoir. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
Sounds right.
All right, so let's talk about Smith and his delaying actions in order to try to concentrate his troops. Right? The 5th and 7th Marines make their way up the pass to Hagaru. They're going past the gatehouse through Hellfire Valley, and they're on their way to Hagaru. Litzenberg gets there on the 14th, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Now, under Operation Order 6, the fight was supposed to begin on the morning of the 25th, correct?
25th. Well, he got there like Litzenberg got there on the 14th.
Yeah.
And then that's like what was it, around the 20, right after Thanksgiving is when he moved.
Yeah.
He had that order, like I said, they had that flag order the day before when they hit, but the day before they hit Hagaru up there, that they were supposed to go and protect that blocking position over at Udam-ni.
Which would have been in line with Walker's 8th Army's eastern flank.
They were already trying to pass that area. When they started, right now they were on hold, waiting for that. You see, that would have been the 24th. See, that was supposed to be the dual offensive.
Yeah.
We were supposed to coordinate that, and both sides were supposed to move together. But now, because Walker had been forced back, he was the one that said, I need to regroup, and I need to get my my ammo together. I got to get more ammo because we've been pushed back here from Josan. He was pushed back that time, and he says, I'm not ready. I won't be ready till the 24th.
Okay.
So that's when they set it up that the 24th, both sides will be in place and will move together. It'll be one joint force moving north. But
Okay.
that didn't include the 7th Division because they were already ahead of everybody else up at the Yellow.
Yeah, they'd already made their arrival.
Yeah, 17th was at High St. John.
Yeah.
And then Samsu, that's where the 32nd was.
Tyson
Minus
Jones.
Faith.
Minus Faith.
And Faith was just delayed. He was going to be up there for the next couple days.
Right.
But that's when the plan changed, when he sent Childs over